Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys and Magic. This is Hunter, David, Steven, and Shane. Say what up, boys.
Going on?
Hey guys.
What's up, nerds?
We are back, this time doing another Commander Grades video. It's the last one for the Fallout series. We are taking a look at the Precon deck from that said series. This one is Science. That's right. If you guys don't know what this is Commander Grades. So we go through and talk about all the legendaries from this specific Precon. Talk about them as a potential commander of their own deck. Are they good? We'll discuss. And then we give them a grade at the end, and then an average grade between all four of us. But before we get started, I just want to remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And we'll go ahead and start with this very first card. It is Arcade Gannon. It is 2, a white and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature human doctor. As an ability, we can tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. Put a quest counter on Arcade Gannon. It has another ability called For Auld Lang Syne, which means once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact or human spell from your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of quest counters on Arcade Gannon. Now, we've already talked about quest counters in the other 3 grades videos because this is a theme, because you can do quests in Fallout. See that? Do we think this card is any good with the quest counters, David?
I think that this is probably one of the better ones that we've seen. Being able to reanimate an artifact is pretty solid, and you don't actually have to have, realistically, very many, if any, quest counters on this to make this pretty solid. So I think that this is one of the better ones that we've seen.
I agree with you.
We're just playing Cheerios?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like 0 or 1 mana artifacts that you would maybe want to reanimate just for added value. So
Okay.
It's not bad, dude. Like a Jeweled Lotus.
Yeah, you're gonna need it.
Cool. Also, we're in blue, which is normally the color to proliferate. So I know we made the jokes about not having the cards to proliferate, but blue is very good at that. So we can actually increase the amount of quest counters on this if we needed to.
I think the thing that's holding this card back, which maybe it's not even that bad, but once during on your turn, so kind of stops you from going too crazy. But I mean, I guess David's right. Reanimating one thing every turn is kind of good.
And
I
you just
mean-
got the ability to go ahead and draw and pitch a card.
Once during each of your turns, just take all the turns.
I mean, the other little fun thing here too is that just to kind of like widen this net, it's actually not just artifact. I wanted to focus on that in the beginning because like there's a lot of like really cheap artifacts. You can reanimate humans with this card too. So like this is a little bit more of a wide card. I mean, just imagine how many times your opponents are gonna have to kill your Drannith Magistrate.
That's true.
Jesus Christ. God, that would suck so bad, dude.
That is something. But yeah. I like it.
I mean, I think it's got a place.
Yeah, I would say
Not in my boxes, but it's got a place.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the grades for this one. Arcade Gannon for me, I'm actually going to go ahead and give it a B. I like this card a lot.
I'm going to stick with my gut on this one. I'm going to give it a C. I just think it's a little slow, but I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, my gut was also sticking on a C.
I'm gonna go C as well.
Well, Arcade Gannon gets the average grade of a C. This next card is Curie, Emergent Intelligence. It's 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary artifact creature robot. It says whenever Curie Emergent Intelligence deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. It can also has another ability where you can pay 1 and a blue, exile another non-token artifact creature you control. Curie becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. Steven, what do you think of Curie?
I think it would be really fun to exile a Blightsteel Colossus.
It would be.
Wanted to do that, sure, yes.
Yeah. I mean, becomes a copy of it. Swing in, kill somebody.
And draw cards.
That
Well,
also
I mean, would you
means
draw
that-
cards or because it deals damage with infect instead of damage, right?
This just says combat damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing combat damage in terms of infect, so it's still combat damage.
Yeah. And I mean, even better.
I mean, you mentioned that though, but like if you're doing that, that does mean that you've just exiled your Blightsteel Colossus.
Oh well. I mean, it's not my only threat in this kind of deck. I mean, I think that this card has got so many routes it can go, and I'm here for it.
You know, that's actually kind of my point of contention with this, is that I kind of disagree.
Hmm.
I don't think that this deck actually has a whole lot of routes. Like, I see the appeal. I'm not going to dismiss Curie. I think that Curie has a lot of potential. You can be drawing a ton of cards off of this, but like, ideally, you're going to want to do like the Phyrexian Dreadnought route, but there's not actually a whole lot of cards that you can play to like really take advantage of Curie, aside from just like, it is a solid draw engine sometimes whenever it connects.
I think this card is an all-star the higher up you go in the food chain of power, David. That's what I think. I think like if you're just playing a normal pod, this probably isn't that good. But if you're playing way higher, I think the potential of it to explode is greater, I guess. I don't know. I think it's like I think it gets better with higher power.
I'm actually not entirely sure I agree with that either.
Prove me wrong.
I just like the limitation on this one coming in only at mono blue does mean that, like, yes, you'll be able to protect Curie, but there are other things that your opponent's going to be able to do. And if you are playing higher power, like playing with a single color is a very real restriction.
True. If I was only playing with one color, it would be a pretty good one to play with.
I like the ability as an instant, and it's just something that you don't need to tap this for either, which is great. So you can do it as a combat trick, even though obviously your opponent will see that coming. But if you had a Liberator Urza's Battle Thopter on the field, you can flash in something and then do that ability.
True.
Or just any other flash in an artifact spell. I think this card is nuts, like Steven and Shane have been saying. I am a big, big fan of it. I think we can go ahead and wrap up and go to the grades, however. Let's start with David. You seem the lowest on it. What do you think?
I'm going to give it a C. I think that it does a thing and it has the potential to do the thing well. But I do think that it's going to cannibalize your board. I don't like how it's exiling instead of just like sacking something. So it does eliminate that recursion. It's somewhat mana intensive, and I do feel like it is going to draw some hate.
I think it has the power to draw you a ton of cards to where you can find those pieces to win the game. For that reason, I'm giving it a B.
Yeah. I wanted to give this an A, but I just feel like I honestly do feel like it depends on your pod. So I'm gonna give it a B for that.
Don't worry, Shane. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
give it an A.
Okay.
Well, Curie, Emergent Intelligence, gets the average grade of a B. Next up, the phase commander of the science deck itself, it's Dr. Madison Li. It is a blue, a red, and a white for a 2/3 legendary creature human scientist. It says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. It also has an ability where you can tap it to pay an energy counter. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. Has another ability where you could tap it, pay 3 energy counters to draw a card. And another ability where you could tap it, pay 5 energy counters, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. David, you did the $100 and $300 upgrade to this deck. If you guys haven't already seen that, check the description down below for those videos and see exactly why David made the deck the way he did. But we'll go with you, David. What do you think of the Doctor?
I think this card is really interesting. Energy is not a mechanic that's very well explored. It's only been around for Kaladesh and Aether Revolt. So there's not really a whole lot to pull from. And I think that when they were designing this card, they really wanted to they wanted to give you an outlet for energy, and they wanted to give you like a generator, and it does both. But my problem here being is that like it's not a very good outlet. There's like none of the abilities in this card like really wow me. The one energy, pay 1 energy, I never felt like was very relevant. The tap it and pay 3 energy, drawing a card is really cool. But at the rate that you are going to be able to do this, it's like every other turn, and then maybe like every like 2 to 3 turns, you can reanimate something. It's just I felt like it's like a Swiss Army knife where it actually doesn't really do a good job of any of the things that it wants to do. And I also felt like for the most part, like energy was one of those resources that even in games that I played where it really kicked off and I had like 20, 30 energy, I didn't necessarily have anything to spend it on. Like it was never really impactful.
Yeah, I get that. It did kind of seem like clunky's definitely not the right word by any means, because it did work, like David was saying. I don't know if it's the right way to say this again, but I kind of feel like again, the more you put into her, budget wise, she does feel a little better. I didn't play her obviously, but seeing David pilot her in the 100, it seemed a little clunky. In the 300, I mean, I'm not gonna give any spoilers because it's not out yet, but I feel like the deck did come a little better. So I don't know if that means anything to you, David, or not, but
I mean, it definitely did, but even at that, like I felt like that was like the deck like really chugging along, but it was just like doing a whole lot of chugging. It wasn't really like progressing in any meaningful way.
Yeah, I think you needed more ways to spend the energy because you made a lot of energy. Um, but like you said, this kind of spends the energy and then the replenish rate on this card specifically is not as strong as spending it. And I get that, and it's probably there for a restriction reason because some of these abilities to return something compared to give something +1/+0 is a lot better, so it is going to cost more. But if you look at it, you have to cast, if you just had this card, you have to cast 3 artifacts to draw 1 card. And that's kind of a lot.
I don't really care about energy too much. Never really like blew my mind. After watching the video that Shane referenced, it is a terrifying, terrifying card. But you know, kind of like David said, I mean, was it this card or was it just the things that David added to the deck? I mean, the recursion factor here is pretty nuts, and there's definitely tons of ways to untap your creatures. So, I mean, I can definitely see this popping off a little bit more. I mean, I don't love it and I don't hate it. So I guess that's good.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the Grays. We will start with you, David. What are you giving Dr. Madison Li?
This is going to be one that I think changes over time. I think as we get more energy cards, this card will improve. But at current, I'm actually going to give it a D.
I don't think I'm that low at current because yes, we have seen Aether Revolt and Kaladesh only have energy cards. We kind of hinted at we're getting some more in Modern Horizons 3. There could be more. A lot of the times, Wizards like to create cards that go with a mechanic down the road, like we've seen with food. So I'm going to give it a C.
I'm also kind of feeling middle road for her. I'm just gonna stick with a C.
See, I'm really debating here. We give it a B.
All right. Dr. Madison Li gets the average grade of a C. Next up, Elder Owyn Lyons. It's 2 a white and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature human knight. It says artifacts you control have ward 1, and also says when it enters the battlefield or dies, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. That's it, huh, Shane?
Yeah, it's kind of I was about to say like that. Okay, feels like a support piece. Like I think it does relevant things, but at the cost of unless you're flickering this, which obviously we mention all the time, um, like a death trigger, kind of lame on a commander because you're trying not to have your commander die, and then it returning to your hand, not even the battlefield. Again, just seems kind of slow. But if you're going the artifacts route, giving all your artifacts ward 1 seems pretty decent. I mean, it's not fantastic. It's not fantastic great, but yeah, it just feels like more of a support piece to me.
I agree with you. I think it is definitely more support. I guess you can flicker this, but then again, how many artifacts are going to be in your graveyard for you need to flicker it?
The more you flicker it, the less targets you'll have.
Mm-hmm.
True, it's true. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's interesting that it's bringing back things from the graveyard when it's also protecting the things from getting to the graveyard.
Only protecting him, kind of. Like, ward 1, you know, it's, I don't know, I guess ward 1 is okay, but you can get around ward 1 pretty easy.
I mean,
Oh,
it's protecting things from your opponents. I look at this and I think like there might be something going on here with like, I don't know. I don't want to say like just like flicker only, but like you could do like some KCI silly stuff with it where you're like reanimating some of the things that you've sacrificed. I don't actually think Ward 1 is anything more than flavor text in all honesty. I don't know. It's this is a card that like it does exactly what it reads.
What do you think of there, Steven?
I mean, I agree with David. The Ward 1 is, I think, very stupid. I mean, Ward 1 doesn't really protect you against board wipes for your artifacts. I mean, I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. And kind of agreeing with the fact, when you guys are bringing up flickering, you can flicker this as much as you want. If you don't have the targets in the graveyard, there's really no point. I mean, unless you're doing some Mindslaver shenanigans with a ton of mana. I mean, this is pretty bad.
Even I'd like to point out, Ward 1,000,000 doesn't protect you from a board wipe, so I'll throw that out there.
True.
Well, I mean, but that's my point. Like, I mean, the artifacts Ward 1 is just kind of
Yeah,
stupid.
no, I know. I'm just
Like-
playing around.
Like, really, the only time this would be kind of cool is if, like, you did something silly, like when Shane always tries to steal my soul ring.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the grades. Elder Owyn Lyons, for me, is getting a D.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll give it a D too.
I think I'm gonna give it a D as well.
We are all giving it Ds.
Look at that. Elder Owyn Lyons gets the average grade of a D. His next card is James, Wandering Dad. It is actually an adventure. So the adventure part is called Follow Him, which is X and 2 blue for an instant. That says investigate X times. But James Wandering Dad is 2 and a blue for a 2/4 legendary creature human scientist that has an ability where you can tap it to add 2 colorless mana. Spend this mana only to activate abilities. This is an interesting one, David. What do you think?
I love this card so much. To all of the fathers out there named James, I'm sorry that this card exists. Like from a design standpoint, this card is fantastic. Okay, your dad left you, and then you're gonna like try and pick up the clues to figure out like where did he go?
And they're free.
Yeah. And they're
Oh,
free with his ability. Yeah.
Well, not free, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
do you ever want to play this card over just like training grounds?
No, probably not.
I mean, like this is a single use, I guess, per turn training grounds for the command zone. I don't think that's good.
Well, it gives you
Yeah.
a bunch of clues, possibly, but other than that,
Yeah, follow him, dude.
I don't know if I like this card. I think it's it's maybe in the 99, maybe not even in the 99. I don't even know.
What if you just kept him in the command zone? Here we go. You ready for this idea?
So dumb.
Let's mechanize warfare a clue, and then right on your opponent's end step before your turn, you make a whole bunch of them.
Like 7 more.
So the mechanized production route, yeah, you could. That is technically a win condition with this.
Production. I said warfare, didn't I?
You did, but you're fine.
I really do like it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
I love mono blue. I have played a lot of artifact themed decks recently, and to be honest, it's a pretty good card. I'm not that concerned with it only being the one color. I don't really care about his ability to tap and basically use it for the clues. I mean, I just think that it's a really good way to filter through. The mechanized production's a really good way to do it. I just like things like Rise and Shine Overloaded and Cyberdrive Awakener with this just go really hard. That and that what was the card? The Kelp from Morska.
Kelpie
You guys
thing
remember
or
that?
whatever, yeah.
Kelpie, yeah.
And that was just nuts. And that was mono blue too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
There's other things that you can do too. Like I'm blanking on the name of the card. This thing gets played all the time. The 3 mana. Whenever you make a clue, you also make a treasure and a food.
That's
Academy
Academy
Manufacturer.
Manufacturer.
I make a
Academy
food, I make a food,
Manufacturer.
I make a clue.
Yep. I mean, you throw an Urza in this deck too. Now your clues can start tapping for mana. Like there are routes that you could take with this card. James can be a deck. I just like
Let's throw one more card in there. If we're gonna be doing Urza too, I think it'd be really fun because it's not in a lot of decks, but Millennium Calendar.
You love
Just
that
untap
card,
all
weird.
those. Dude, it's so fun to kill people with the artifact.
With the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you guys are all talking possible deck solutions and scenarios, and let's move on to the grades because I'm still going to give it a D.
you're so harsh, dude.
Go ahead and join me, Dave.
It is a D.
That's what I thought.
So
That's
harsh,
what I
dude.
thought.
I think I almost gave it a C. Nah, I'm gonna give it a D.
I'm not there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm actually a really big fan of this card. I'm gonna give it a B.
The average grade for James Wandering Dad is a C. Moving on to Liberty Prime, Recharged. It's 2, a blue, a red, and a white for an 8/8 legendary artifact creature robot. It's got vigilance, it's got trample, it's got haste. It says whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice it, unless you pay 2 energy counters. Also has another ability you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice an artifact, you get 2 energy counters, and draw a card. David, this is the backup commander to Science. What do you think of Liberty Prime?
I really want to love this card, and it is absolutely trying its best to make sure that I don't. It does a lot of things that I really like. It is a gigantic beater that is relatively cheaply costed. I like sacrifice things. I like card draw. I just don't think energy is there yet. There's not a whole lot of cards that generate energy that are like solid on their own that produce more than like what they themselves spend. So I know that we're gonna get more of them in the future. My thought on this though is that like worst case scenario, this is 5 mana for an 8/8 that blocks 1 time and dies.
I disagree because it gives itself energy. Like if you had another
Super
artifact in the
slow
field,
though.
Yeah, that's
you block and then the trigger happens and then you pay the 2, tap it, sack an artifact. You get the 2 energy you can put right into it and draw a card.
okay. But by that instance though, I mean I'm paying 2 mana and I'm tapping down my creature for me to block something. I understand that like the haste enabler on or that the haste on this does mean that like you can tap it and sacrifice another thing immediately. My downside here, however, being is that like that to me kind of negates the fact that this is a cheaper commander. Like this thing coming down, it's 5 mana. It's 7 mana if I want it to do something that turn. And if I'm tapping it for energy production, I'm not swinging with it.
Depends on what's in the deck, right? Because if you had other energy enablers before this came down.
That was my point. Is that like there's not a whole lot of energy enablers right now. There's just not. Most cards that produce energy also spend that energy too. And there's not really a whole lot that produce more than what they spend.
Well, they could produce it and then you choose not to spend it, right?
I mean, that's part of the downside though, is like whenever I was upgrading the science deck, there's not very many good energy cards. Like there's like maybe 4 or 5 that are like actually solid cards. But the reason why I ended up choosing and sticking with Dr. Madison Li is she actually is probably the best energy production card that has been printed.
I was gonna bring that up too. I was gonna say that like you want them both to be almost going together because like you mentioned how you had a ton of mana with Madison Li, but you didn't have anything to pay off really, and like this is a payoff, right? Like so this will be a great payoff, but it's in a different card again. So it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too kind of thing. Like you need the sink or you need the thing to make it all, and then you need the sink, and like they're kind of conflicting at the moment.
I feel like the best energy producer would probably be Gonti's Aetherheart. Now, I know that is 6 mana compared to this commander being 5 mana, but if you can get that down first before casting this, I think you're in a lot of good shape because that will produce energy at an alarming rate. It's just whenever any artifact enters, you get 2 energy counters. So if you're making a bunch of clues or treasures or you're in that color combination of blue and red, making both of those tokens, you're making a ton of energy very quickly.
I mean, also, I know you brought up Gonti's, but I mean, Aetherworks Marvel is a really good one too. Because I mean, if you're gonna be sacking those artifacts anytime we're really any permanent hits your graveyard, you're gonna get that 1 energy from it.
I mean, you guys right now are like you are bringing up whenever I mentioned that there's like 4 or 5 good energy cards. We've just talked about 3 of them.
Well,
I mean, I will say this deck also added energy suppliers for the format too. I mean, what was that card? Let me find it real quick. The Assaultron Dominator, I thought was just really fun. 2 mana, you get 2 energy when it enters the battlefield. I thought was really cool, and it's an artifact, so you can sack that to get 2 energy. I think that the deck can hum. I will agree with you, David, that it does take a lot for it to hum with the current cards that are in the format. But like Hunter mentioned earlier, with Modern Horizons 3 coming out, us possibly getting some more energy support, I think this is going to be a pretty fun card. But again, going back to what you said, David, just not right now.
Yep. I think that's really what it kind of summarizes for me is like, this is a card that has a brighter future.
Well, let me ask you this then, Dave. If you think it has a brighter future, if energy is very sustainable down the road and they really push it as much as they're pushing food at the moment, is this a card you would play?
I mean, I don't want to necessarily say yes or no right now. To be completely honest with you, this is really not something that screams like for me to build this as like one of my own personal decks. I'm not the biggest fan of the big smashy combat focused piece. The part that probably speaks most to me is the sacrifice and draw cards.
Well, you just heard it here first, folks. He hates democracy.
Is that what you were
He's not playing
baiting out?
Helldivers.
Bro, he was baiting out that so hard, David.
Yeah, there we go.
If anyone at this table, this round artificial table is going to build this, it'd be Hunter. Hunter likes big
True.
smashy things, and you would
I like combat
1000%.
focused
Yeah,
things.
you would 1000% build this.
Yeah, it's very cool. Jessicai's cool too. I think we're all on board though. Or not on board, but I think we've got enough conversation going to go ahead and move on to the grades. We will start with you, David. Liberty Prime.
This is another card that I think the grade's going to change over time, but right now it's a D.
For democracy, right?
D for democracy.
I can't go that low, and I still think it's very good. So I'm at a B right now. I think it has a potential to go to A down the line.
No. I will go above David, below you. I will put it at a C.
Yep. I think that it sits at a C for me as well.
Well, Liberty Prime recharged gets the average grade of a C. Next up, Nick Valentine, Private Eye. It's 2 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature, Synth Detective. It says Nick Valentine, Private Eye can't be blocked except by artifact creatures. And it also says whenever Nick Valentine or another artifact creature you control dies, you may investigate. Another
That's good.
simple to the point blue artifacts matters deck.
Hunter, tell me why this is not good.
I mean, I don't think we need to discuss why it's not good. I think we just kind of sit here and we talk for a quick second about the fact that we hate it, and then we just move on to grades.
What if I don't hate this card?
Well,
Why do
it
you-
wouldn't shock me. So let's hear it.
It is a relatively cheap, somewhat unblockable commander. It also rewards you for having your other things die. I mean, it does clue production. Steven loves clue production.
Not in a good way whatsoever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think it does enough for me, dude.
I think that this is something that you can exploit. I think that this is like, I don't know, you can KCI loop. I'm going to go back to that. But like, you can make a ridiculous amount of clues in this. There are things that you could potentially do. I do like unblockable commanders. I know it starts at 2, but I mean, all you got to do is count to 21 and your opponent is done. So
that was the point I was going to make, David. Put some boots on this, really build up its power. A lot of the times your opponent probably won't have an artifact creature on the board. They're in trouble.
But I mean,
So-
like I'm not even a really big fan of the KCI route because it's another artifact creature. It's not just artifact.
that's
I mean,
fine.
I think that the biggest thing that David brought up that I'm actually agree with is that this card's exploiting me because the way it's staring at me right now makes me want to give it an A. But I'm just it's scaring me.
It's terrifying. Private Eye, Nick Valentine. What do you think, Shane?
I just think that you're describing the like green smashy in blue though. Like you want to put the pants
Yeah.
on, like what is that gonna work?
Yeah.
You're gonna buff this thing up and like make it more than just 2 every turn, because if you're not, you're just gonna get targeted. You're just annoying, dude. Not saying this card gets targeted. I mean, you as a player, they're gonna be like, you're a pest. I don't want you here anymore.
That's why you focus one player.
Yeah, but that's never fun. That's a really not fun way to play.
I mean, that's how you get away with surviving with aggro.
Yeah, but that dude, I guess that's just not for me. Whenever
You
I
beat
target one
one
player,
player
just
down.
yeah, that just if you're out there and you do that, I'm sorry, but that's
Hunter,
such
what
a
did-
boring way.
Hunter, what did you say? You said you want to move on to grades?
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to the grades. Steven, we'll start with you. Nick Valentine.
F.
Ooh,
Oh.
Gonna be a spicy
I
one.
am not gonna go that low at all. I'm gonna go with a C, Nick Valentine.
Hunter and I are on the same page for this one. I'm going to give it a C as well.
I'm gonna give him a D.
All right. Well, Nick Valentine, Private Eye, gets the average grade of a D. Moving on to Paladin Danse, Steel Maverick. 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature, Synth Knight. It's got vigilance, it's got lifelink, and it says you can exile Paladin Danse, Steel Maverick. Each creature you control that's an artifact or human gains indestructible at a turn.
Very cute. We've seen this before. Not really sacrificing my commander very often though.
Yeah. A protection spell in a specific typal. Yeah. Not in the command zone. This is definitely a support piece.
That's
I
one you
have
tell me
nothing
I'm
nice
wrong.
to say.
Okay.
Listen, guys, you can put the boots on it. Okay.
Mhm.
Got vigilance. It's got
It's got
lifelink. Boy.
vigilance, lifelink. Just make it really big. Come on.
Make it
Great card.
unblockable. It's great. All right.
This one can be blocked and can be sacked. I have nothing nice to say
Yeah,
about this
I don't
card.
think any of us have anything great to say about this as a commander.
Equipment matters, man. And then when they go to destroy it, just sack it.
Let's move on to the grades. I think we are all on the same page. I'll kick us off. Paladin Danse is getting an F from me.
F from me.
It's going to be an F.
Gonna have to be an F.
Just like that, Paladin Danse Steel Maverick gets the average grade of an F. Next up, Red Death Shipwrecker. It's a blue and a red for a 1/3 legendary creature, Crab Mutant. It's got alluring eyes, which means you can tap it, goad target creature an opponent controls. That player draws a card. You add a red mana. David, I believe when this was first spoiled, you were kind of high on this card. What do you think?
I think that this is a fun card in support. Specifically, I think that if you were playing this in a deck that like capitalizes on your opponent's drawing cards. So I'm trying to remember the name of the teamer snake, Xerix or something like that. And then there Xyrus. And then there is also Nekusar, which I feel like this could also be a fun card in, where it's like you're punishing your opponents for drawing cards and potentially taking care of some of their creatures. I really want to love this card. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very tempted to build this because there is that like kind of chaosy factor of just like I'm here to have a good time and force you guys to play Magic with me. Because I don't think this is really gonna draw a whole lot of hate. Like I'm drawing you a card. Sure, I'm making your creature attack.
It's
But
like you're welcome, but swing at him.
yeah,
And you add red.
I kind of like this card honestly. I know that we always say, and I say it a lot too, but giving your opponent's card advantage is terrible. But like if you build this into a goad deck that also gives you mana when you're goading, like David said, shenanigans, and that sounds really fun.
Yeah, but like, why would I not just build a better Go deck with a better commander?
because this one costs 2.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it
care.
gives you a red.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd rather play
all-
Furkrag.
Yeah, but
That's
look
all
at its eyes.
That's all fine and dandy, but when it comes to a 1v1 at the end of the game, if you have this,
Well,
you're
you're not
screwed.
No,
the end
When
of
it comes
game,
to a
you're not gonna tap
1v1, you should have Nelly Borka because we all know 1v1s with Nelly
Yeah.
lose.
all right. In all fairness, there are much better goad commanders out there.
Mhm. I am not giving my opponent card advantage for them to draw a card that can potentially ruin my whole game plan. So
Fine.
let's move on to the grades. David, the chaos of Red Death. What do you think?
This card is God. I can't go all the way down. There's something in me that just loves this little crab too much. I'm gonna give it a D.
I
What?
I honestly
It's-
didn't want to go all
there's
the
a-
way down, dude.
There's a part that like really screams this should probably be an F, but like God, I want to love this thing.
I am in the exact same boat, and I want to play it, so I'm gonna give it a D.
I love how you guys are high on it and giving it a D because I'm
Well,
low on it and I'm still giving it a D.
I mean, I'm low on it, but it does do something kind of cool, so it is a D.
Red Death Shipwrecker gets the average grade of a D. Next up, Rex Cyber-Hound. It's a white and a blue for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature robot dog. says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy counters. It has another ability to pay 2 energy counters. Choose target creature card in a graveyard. Exile it with a brain counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. It also says Rex has all activated abilities of all cards in exile with brain counters on them. I believe in the games we've played, I'm going to go back to you, David. You said this was the best dog compared to dog meat. You kept saying that over and over. The better dog. As a joke, I get it. But what do you think about this as a potential commander?
Well, it's not the better dog. It was just the dog that I had with a dog Cyberbrain. This is a 3 mana very fragile commander that needs to be able to connect to produce energy, and if it doesn't produce energy, it doesn't do anything. I don't actually think that this is gonna do much most games.
Yeah, this reminds me of like you just said, fragile, but like a way more fragile. What was that card? Like the Witch's Cauldron or something? The same thing where you're like exiling a card out and then you get to put a counter on something and give it the ability.
I get the Soul Cauldron.
Soul Cauldron.
Wait, hold up. You're comparing those to a absolutely nutty combo piece.
I just said fragile, David.
I was gonna say, this is also only sorcery speed. It's got so many hoops that you need to jump through.
Right, but can you at least draw a parallel of what it does? Can you follow along with me with this? Okay, here we go. So it does a similar ability. Granted, it's not nuts. It's bad.
I think an Agatha Soul Cauldron in your command zone is pretty good. I mean, granted, you need the energy to make it work. I know that's what I'm. You're saying it's more fragile. I get that, but yeah, dude, I think we're gonna go back to the same topic that we talked about. It's gonna get better once energy gets more, right?
I don't even care about the energy. The reason why I love this card, and nobody's talked about it.
Doing your shoes up.
Mill.
I don't know if this card mills very well. Did you have to connect, right?
It doesn't mill very well.
Connect.
No, what I'm saying is, let's just say you just have some energy pieces in your deck. All this says is choose target creature card in a graveyard. So if I'm milling all my opponents, there you go.
You get there.
So,
All right, well, let's move on to the grades. We will start directly with you, Steven. You love Rex. What are you giving it?
I mean, to be honest with you, call me crazy, but I'm going to give this an A.
You are fucking crazy.
You are crazy. You are crazy.
Listen, it's a cheap commander to come down. I think that there's enough energy in the format for it to be fun. And then, to be honest, the mill strategy makes me super excited. And I love Azorius to do fun combo-y shenanigans. I really do think this card could go a lot of ways.
This guy sees mill and goes, "Hey!"
Yeah,
Doesn't
dude.
matter what it does. No, I can't do that. It's a C.
I wouldn't even give it a C, honestly. I'm giving this a D.
D for dog.
Rex Cyber-Hound gets the average grade of a C. This next card is Sentinel Lyons. It's 3, a red and a white for a 4/4 legendary creature human knight. It's got haste, and it says as long as an artifact enter the battlefield under your control this turn, creatures you control get +2/+2. It also has another ability called Battalion, which means whenever Sentinel Lyons and at least 2 other creatures attack, Sentinel Lyons deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. That seems like a really good card.
All right, Mr. Boros player.
Yeah, that's right, dude. All you got to do is have a treasure come in and everything gets +2/+2.
Okay.
That's a fantastic rate. And if you're Boros, you're probably going wide because that's kind of what the Boros thing wants to do. So you're swinging with multiple things. Depending on how many treasures you have, you're dealing that much damage to target player. I like this card a lot.
I'm going to love this card when it costs 25.
Okay. Because you're gonna,
But it does have
if
haste.
I've played it, yeah. It does have haste. It means you can come down and swing early.
Early? Turn 5.
Hey, man,
Probably
swing
not early. I will say that this reminds me of Jor Kadim. Do you think that so Jor Kadim, by the way, is also 5 mana, also Boros. It's a 5/4 with first strike. It's got Metalcraft and it says creatures you control get +3/+0 as long as you have 3 or more artifacts. If that was your commander, do you think that this one's just you just swap them out?
Probably.
I think that you might.
Yeah, that's this is just a better rate, I feel like. You just have to have something entered to give it +2/+2.
I mean, the other one is static, so it's just like it's always going to have that +3/+0.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have like a smothering tithe on the field, that's just triggering every turn cycle, essentially, as long
Yeah,
as your
that's true.
opponents don't pay. And they never do.
Yeah, I pay my taxes.
Not for that one.
I don't know if I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I don't play Boros, but like this doesn't.
Boros sucks.
It just doesn't appeal to me at all. Like I see this commander and I just go like, cool, cool. That's all I can say is cool.
Cool. Yeah,
Like I
think
love
it's cool
like
too.
I hate on Simic, but Simic is good. I hate on Boros because Boros is shitty.
Guys, look here. I don't like Boros either. There's very few, Nelly, very few commanders in Boros that I actually enjoy.
Whoa,
However, I will say this is a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It's a lot of damage, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you're right.
I mean, to be
It's only
honest
damage
with
to
you,
one person though.
I
If
would
you put,
much
like-
rather.
A Nympicall in this and it makes how many gnomes? That's gonna trigger this as well because the gnomes are artifacts too. So
Even talk to me.
I would much rather add black and reduce the cost by 1 and just play Caesar.
I think they're
True.
very different decks.
I
They're
think they are
100%
too.
different decks. I just think that if I'm going to have a strategy where I want to deal damage with the amount of X things I control, I would much rather do that with Caesar. I think that building a board state in Boros with Caesar is way easier than it would be with Sentinel, Sarah, Lyons. I don't know. I'd rather add more colors and have a little bit more fun.
Let's go ahead and move on to the grades. I think I'm the highest on this card, and I would give it an A. However, it is 5 mana, and if it was 4 mana, this would be an A. But because it's 5, it's a B.
I don't like agreeing with you. It's a B.
I don't
Uh-huh.
like agreeing with you guys either, so it's a C.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Steven and I are on the same page. It's just a meh, middle of the road C.
Hey, meh.
Well, Sentinel Sarah Lyons gets the average grade of a B. We got another dad that's not wandering. It's Shaun, father of Synths. It's 3, a blue, and a red for a 3/4 legendary creature human scientist. It says whenever you attack, you may create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of target attacking legendary creature you control other than Shaun, except it's not legendary and it's a synth artifact creature in addition to his other types. It also says when Shaun leaves the battlefield, exile all synth tokens you control. This can get out of hand very quickly, Steven. What do you think?
I mean, it says it. Legendary matters. I don't really think I like Is It because like it's a spell slinger type of deck. Obviously, you could still do some spell slinger stuff, but I don't know. I don't know. Like
I think I know.
Card's
think-
nuts.
I think it is nuts, like you said, Hunter, but I also think that you remove the commander and your board's oops.
No, it doesn't. Only
Why?
the things that are copies.
Right, that the things that you made with this card to make it out of hand.
Yeah, but you get to keep the original thing still.
I just think this deck is going to be mana intensive. And I think that's why I'm not a huge fan. I'm really big on building low to the ground decks to a certain extent. Obviously, you have your big pieces that win you the game, but like I don't want to play this for 5 mana. Hopefully I have a legend that's smaller on the field beforehand. But I mean later on, like I'm just gonna be spending all my mana to play these big fucking honky legends that I could get an extra one of, sure, but I don't know.
I mean, cards are legendary because normally they're pretty good. And if you're
Sure.
getting multiple of them on the field, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
I want to hear Dave's
know.
opinion.
I think this card is actually genuinely bad.
Thank you.
I understand that, like, yeah, it has like the like Kalia-esque feel of, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get like some cheaty creatures in play or something like that. That other creature has to be it has to be attacking.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a very real chance with this that the legendary, the actual card is just going to die. It's either going to be cheaper than this because this thing already comes down at 5 and has to be able to swing for it to actually do literally anything, or it's going to be more expensive, so your deck is super mana intensive. And if that's the case, like this is now a commander that's going to draw some hate. I think that if you want to do like the copy style of effects, there are better cards out there that are cheaper than this. If you want to do the like cheat things and play with like big smashy stuff, there are better cards out there that are faster than this. And they don't have the downside of one removal spell is also a board wipe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what you just said though, unless I'm reading this wrong, right? Like you can just play this card, and then your legend card, and then you don't have to attack with this card though.
You have to attack with whatever
With
you're
the
gonna
other
copy.
legend, yeah, right. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
you
saying.
have. Well, that kind of okay. So maybe I just want to like clarify, but yeah, but like this is a 5 mana thing that like you do have to have your legendary swinging in, and
Yeah.
in my mind, like you probably want to build it relatively low to the ground so that whenever you do finally get to 5 mana, your legendary creature can actually do its thing.
Yeah.
Hey, we can also just do the Godo thing. Took unlimited combat.
Just build.
I mean, that's sure.
I
Godo.
just built Godo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
you're
just
adding
saying
more
Godo could be
loops.
in this. I'm just throwing in good legendary creatures that you can copy.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just not really high on this.
I don't feel like I'm very high either.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the grades. I'm probably the highest on Shaun, and I'm gonna give it a B.
Wow.
Huh.
Now I know how you felt when I said A on that one card earlier.
You are the highest on Shaun. I'm gonna give Shaun a D.
Yeah, I was also sticking on more of a D.
I think I'm gonna give this an F.
Wow.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, it doesn't.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this an F. It only does the one attacking creature. Like it's not cool. You get to build a board state slowly. I'm not high on this card. Izzet is known for going fast and doing fun stuff quickly, and this is just so slow.
Shaun, father of Synths, gets the average grade of a D. And the final legendary creature we are talking about today is the Motherlode Excavator. It's 3 and 2 red for a 5/5 legendary artifact creature robot. It says when the Motherlode Excavator enters the battlefield, choose target opponent. You get an amount of energy counters equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Has another ability that says whenever it attacks, you may pay 4 energy counters. When you do, destroy target non-basic land defending player controls, and creatures that player controls without flying can't block this turn. So specific. It's got to be something with lore, I assume, with the non-flying thing. But what do you think about this card, Shane?
I think this is a great support piece in a energy deck. We talked about making energy. You can maybe make a lot of energy, unless your opponents are all playing with basics, which just sucks. But what is this? This is just like a land destruction, which, right? Is that, unless I'm reading that wrong? You're
Yeah, it is
that,
land destruction.
Yeah, which is
non-basics.
stupid. Well, I mean, that's just me being biased, but I don't think I am here for this card in this, unless you guys tell me I'm wrong, and then I agree.
Well, let's hear from the resident loving to destroy lands. That would be David. You love land destruction for whatever sick reason.
Hang
What do
me
you
out to
think
be
of
the
this
villain.
card? Yes.
I don't think this card is good for land destruction. I think that this card, so the energy production here is, I don't think it's as good as what it probably reads. There actually are, turns out, a lot of basics that get played in a game of Commander. I think probably the optimal would be like maybe you're getting 4, maybe 5 energy off this, which is solid. Like it allows you to pay for it to do its thing. I'm also not really the biggest fan of the land destruction, though. I think that the biggest upside of this is that all of a sudden you are going to be swinging in and your creatures are just like basically unblockable. Like this is a way for you to just like pummel an opponent and their board state just fall apart.
Yeah, unless they have flying.
Yeah, but who plays with flying creatures in this format?
Just Hunter, literally just Hunter.
Angels,
My one
baby, let's
buddy,
go.
my one buddy Alex, and I always get the question: do you have any flying? No, swing.
I think it's a bummer though too, David, because Yeah, you can basically make it unblockable, but you need to be paying 4 energy every time.
Oh yeah, no, it does this one time.
Yeah.
This card
Yeah, I don't-
sucks.
Yeah, I don't know
Don't
if I
like
like
this
this card.
card.
Womp womp.
Last card. None of us like it. Let's move on to the grades, starting with the land destruction himself, David.
I'm gonna give it an A.
Such a dick.
I'm not actually giving it an A.
So give me the grade.
I'm gonna
Just
give
give
this
it
an
an F
F.
and move on, man. Yeah,
Actually,
just please.
I'm gonna give it an F.
Yeah, I am also giving it an F. This is not a good card.
I am also
It's-
giving this an F.
F all around.
Well,
hurts.
I do want to
Really?
say one thing though.
what do you want to
If
say?
you get,
before we
if
wrap
anybody at home plays Land Destruction, I'm
That's
cool with
David.
you.
up?
I listen. I'm just saying to all of our viewers, if you play Land Destruction, it's cool. It's a part of the format. I mill. It's fine.
The Motherlode Excavator gets the average grade of an F. And that is going to do it for the Science deck. All the brand new legendary creatures from that deck. Once again, if you wanted to see the $100 and $300 upgrade to that deck and see why David made it the way he did, links are in the description down below. Hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, so you're staying up to date with all the other content that we're always putting out. In the description, you will find links to all of our social media accounts. That's TikTok, that's Twitter, that is Instagram, at GuysThatMagic for each one. On the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. It means the world to us. If you guys wanted to see what they see, which is not here on YouTube, check the description as well and consider subscribing. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.